I'm Andre Andriola.
I'm Charlie Alexander.
And I'm Pat Gervin.
And we're Team 12, and this is our ethics presentation on Gilbane Gold. So to start us off, this is a fictional case, but it's a highly plausible one. And then we have primary and secondary issues with this case. The primary being whistleblowing and the obligation of engineers, and then the secondary being management problems, fairness, problems raised, and the relationship of law and morality. And this case takes place in a town called Gilbane, which is known for having good business because they offer a bunch of tax write-offs to companies coming in. And then the company that decides to come in and we're looking at is Z Corp, because they're moving to Gilbane knowing that they have these regulations that they can get a tax write-off on and still be under the regulations, and they have a manufacturing plant that creates the toxic material, and they find out that with the first test they passed the toxin test because they measure it in volume and not the amount of quantity of the toxins. And they find out later on that there's a better test developed, and while Gilbane does not require this, they realize that if they boost up the production, that they'll definitely exceed the amount of toxins that are safe.
So with any ethics case, we're going to come across moral issues, and so for this first bullet, we got to decide whether or not the violation of the test is endangering the citizens of Gilbane. So in this case it is, because if they exceed this limit, then they're going to put the fertilizer in danger for the citizens. For the second bullet, whether or not Jackson is engaged in deception, one of the first pillars for engineers, going back to the first bullet, is to protect the citizens, so that's a big one. And then for the second bullet, engaging in deception is one that engineers should not do. It's also in the ethics code, so that's not good for engineers. For the third one, whether or not Z Corp has been treated fairly by the city, it comes down to a concept called free informed consent, where all parties are supposed to be known of the regulations. So Z Corp came to Gilbane because they were told that they would have good tax write-offs and whatnot for their company, but when they get there, they realize that there are environmental regulations that they must follow. For the fourth bullet, whether or not they're being fair to Jackson, when he comes into his new job, he's replacing a fired engineer over the same issue, so he's really put in a bad spot because his career is on the line. And for the fifth bullet, whether or not they're weighing the pros and cons of telling the city, because there's obviously pros for Z Corp and pros for the city based on which decision is made.
So alongside the moral issues, we also have technical issues. One of them is Z Corp following the law if they still operate within the standards of the old test, but according to the new, more sensitive test, they're not within the law. Technically, they're following the standard that the city has been put forth, but they know themselves that they are not actually following the standard as close as possible. Secondly, is if they pump up their volume, they can release more toxins because it's measured on a per volume basis, not on how many toxins are released. So although they're operating within the law, it doesn't make it right. That's something as engineers that we must all follow. If you know something's wrong, even if it's legally correct, you have to speak up and make it known. So solutions for David in his tricky spot. The most ideal solution is to pump down the discharge, speak to his managers, try to get them to understand the problem. Hopefully they just pump down the discharge and get back within the standards. This could be expensive. So a second option, if it is too expensive, is for the company to go explain the issue to the city, explain their narrow profit margins, explain their entire situation. Hopefully the city can change their standards for Z Corp. If these don't work, David can take a little more drastic changes. He can threaten to bring the issue to the city himself. This could threaten his career, however. He's going to his managers and threatening to take action himself without the company's knowledge. He can also speak to corporate leaders. This also puts his career on the line. He's going down the chain of command, speaking to people above his bosses first, maybe speaking to other corporations, getting them behind him. He can also claim it goes against his professional integrity as an engineer, refuse to sign off on papers. However, the company could see this as a refusal to do his job, and they could fire him like they did to the last guy. And finally, the worst case scenario, he can speak to the media and whistleblow. This could jeopardize his career because he's revealing company secrets. Other jobs may not want to hire him after he whistlebllows, and it also destroys Z Corp's relationship with the community. They won't trust the company anymore, and as of now, they're in good standing with the public, so he completely destroys the relationship that they've built. So in conclusion, engineers are required to make difficult decisions, especially when it comes to issues like this. They have to have everyone's best interest in mind, including the public, including themselves, and also including the company. But most importantly, as engineers, we serve for service and integrity. So if you know that your company is not operating within the best interest of the public, it's up to you to speak up in the best manner possible. For any questions, feel free to contact Team 12. Thank you.